Ever wonder how a simple, personal act of faith can grow into something so powerful it becomes a pillar of an entire society? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to trace the incredible journey of generosity in Islam, from a heartfelt voluntary choice all the way to a foundational law that helped shape a civilization. So let's start at the very beginning.
So our story kicks off in the early days, back in Makkah. You have to picture this. It's a brand new community. There are no formal laws yet. And the whole idea of charity, it wasn't a command. It was more like an appeal, a call that went straight to the heart, rooted in this new sense of shared belief and brotherhood.
So, in this Meccan era, giving wasn't about ticking a box or fulfilling some legal duty. Nope. It was a pure, voluntary expression of your faith. It was about seeing a need in the community and responding to it, just because your internal compass, your conscience, told you it was the right thing to do.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the spirit of the time. The act of giving was a direct reflection of what you believed. It was all about solidarity. It was about the rich looking at the poor and not seeing a burden, but seeing their actual brothers and sisters in faith, people who deserved help and compassion.
But here's the thing. These early teachings weren't all just gentle encouragements. They came paired with some incredibly powerful, frankly soul-shaking warnings about what happens when you just turn a blind eye to suffering.
And that's a huge question, right? What happens when greed and just indifference start to take root in a person's heart? The Quran tackles this head-on with some of the most vivid and unforgettable imagery you can imagine.
Okay, so listen to this, because the order of things here is absolutely key. When the people in hell are asked, hey, what got you here? One of the very first things they say, right up there with failing to pray, is that they failed to feed the poor. This just slams home the point that social responsibility is right at the absolute core of faith.
And then there's this story, the parable of the burnt garden. You've got these people who make a secret plan to go harvest their crops super early, specifically so they can avoid sharing anything with the poor. But their greed is met with an immediate, divine consequence. A fire comes in the night and destroys everything. The lesson is just, bam, right there. Hoarding your wealth and shutting out the needy leads to ruin, not in some distant afterlife, but right here, right now.
And this one, wow, this severity is just undeniable. The verse makes a direct link between two things, disbelief in God, and not even encouraging the feeding of the poor. It's not just about you failing to give personally. It's about failing to build a society that actually cares. It's making it crystal clear the belief and social action are two sides of the very same coin.
These verses weren't just abstract ideas for the people hearing them for the first time. They had a real, profound, almost physical effect on the first Muslims. The companion Abu Darda, for instance, when he heard verses like these, was moved to tears. He totally got the massive weight of this responsibility, and immediately urged his own family to give, hoping to be protected from a fate like that.
All right, so now the scene shifts. The community migrates, they establish a new society in Medina, and that spirit of giving, well, it had to evolve. It was time to move from just individual acts of kindness to something more structured, something that could support the whole community.
And this chart just lays out that shift perfectly, doesn't it? What started in Makkah as this voluntary act, something driven by your own faith and conscience, it gets formalized in Medina. It becomes an obligatory pillar, a foundational law that actually gives structure to the society. This was the birth of Zakaat.
So what exactly is Zakaat? Well, it's a divinely ordered system. It's a specific percentage of your wealth that you give to those in need. But it's so much more than a tax. The word itself means to purify. The idea is that it cleanses you, the giver, from miserliness and greed, and it purifies the wealth you have left.
And the effects of this system? They were absolutely transformative. For the individual, it was a shield against greed. Spiritually, it was a way to actually increase your blessings. But for society, it was a game changer. It was designed to bridge that gap between the rich and the poor, to create a community that the Prophet described as being like a single body. If one part aches, the whole body feels that pain.
And this right here, this is the divine promise that flips our whole way of thinking on its head. The logic isn't earthly, it's spiritual. The idea is that spending in God's cause doesn't actually decrease what you have. Instead, it's an investment that God Himself promises He will replace and multiply. It completely reframes how we think about spending and saving.
But these grand principles and laws, they were never meant to just be abstract rules in a book. To really understand the spirit behind them, you have to look at the human example right at the center of it all. The Prophet himself was the living, breathing embodiment of these teachings, showing that a just society is really built on a foundation of personal character, even in the most private moments.
Think about this. People who met him when he was in his 50s were just amazed by his energy. They described him as having the vitality of a man in his prime. And this wasn't just for show, for public leadership. It was a reflection of a balanced life, a spirit that wasn't weighed down by worldly things, a spirit that was full of life that he shared generously with everyone around him.
And then you get this incredible, beautiful story that shows the human side of this great leader. He would playfully race his wife, Aishah. Just try to picture that for a second. Two people, bound by this deep love and faith, just racing in the vastness of the desert, laughing. It shows a life that found a perfect balance between divine revelation and simple human joy and affection.
See, Aishah had won the first race when she was younger and lighter. Later on, after she'd grown a bit, he won the rematch, and with a smile he said, "This one for that one." Basically, we're even now. It's just this moment of playful tenderness, a beautiful testament to a loving partnership. And it leaves you with a really profound thought. What if the whole point of building a structured, generous society is to create a world where these simple, beautiful moments of love and humanity can truly flourish for everyone?